Come in, Southern California. This is Radio Free Los Angeles. Do you copy? Repeat, do you copy?
Now transmitting from behind the Iron Curtain in the People's Republic of California, we bring you the voice of free men, free markets, and limited constitutional government. Welcome to citizen-sponsored Radio Free Los Angeles with President of the California Taxpayers Union, Mike Alexander, and editor of the Taxpayer Gazette, Jonathan Wilson.
All right, back with you. Good evening. Back with you here on a beautiful March evening, and we have, I don't know if this is unseasonably warm weather, but it's California weather, and I will take it.
I think today broke some records.
Did it really?
Yeah, not quite yesterday.
Yeah.
But it was warm yesterday. Today broke some records.
Yeah, what was it today?
I think it got up to 85.
Did it really? Yeah. It was just gorgeous. California weather. I tell you, come into the studio. I'm always excited about doing it on a Sunday night. But boy, when the weather's this good, it's just a little bit tough not to stay on that patio.
And I just love the smell of the honeysuckle this time of year.
Oh, yeah.
Honeysuckle and the night jasmine.
Oh, it's wonderful. And, of course, here in Southern California, depending upon where you are, you also, of course, you're going to get all the the orange blossoms and lemon blossoms. They start to come around. It's a fantastic time of the year. In any event, this is Radio Free Los Angeles, the voice of free men, free markets, limited constitutional government, and for the next several years, it will also be the voice of choice in Los Angeles, that is, of school choice. A lot more on that later. Meanwhile, if you'd like to be part of the program tonight, you can call us at 866-870-5752. Now, tonight, and if you want to watch on Facebook, what do, Jonathan?
Well, just search Radio Free Los Angeles on Facebook, and you'll be able to see our live video stream and listen to the broadcast live.
Sounds good.
And you can comment, ask questions, all that stuff.
That's right. Well, we certainly appreciate everybody listening in, and I think all the basketball games are over, so at least I've gone up against Christmas, I've gone up against New Year's, gone up against the Super Bowl, the playoffs, you name it. We've had it all here. Tonight, we're going to have somebody calling in very special at 8:30, a guy named Mark Ang, A-N-G. And Mark is an Asian American guy, part of the Asian American Business Coalition, something like that. He'll tell you all about himself. But I first met Mark here about a month ago when he gave an excellent presentation on what they're actually teaching in schools here, particularly in the sex so-called education area. It's going to be very interesting to hear his perspective. We're going to talk about a couple of very important stories on what Kamala Harris is doing in her proposal to get the federal government to invest, quote unquote. That's always their joke word. That's the first hint for you to reach your wallet, is when you hear a politician talk about investment, $315 billion to raise teachers' salaries by an average of $13,500 per teacher here over, I don't know, eternity, 5 or 10 years. Doesn't make any difference, but I'll explain all that to you. Then we're also going to talk about our friend Tony Thurmond, who is the new superintendent of California schools.
Yeah, I heard he's for school choice. Is that correct?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
April Fools.
Yeah. Well, that's tomorrow. Yeah. Well, we'll do our April Fools edition tonight. But we're going to talk about all that, and I think what I'd like to do also here, because school choice is such a big part of what we do, I would like to continue to read some of the quotations that were prepared by Bill Federer, F-E-D-E-R-E-R. Bill Federer is a columnist on WorldNet Daily, writes a lot of really great stuff. And by the way, Joseph Farah, His last name is spelled Farah. Joseph Farah is the founder and editor of World Net Daily. And Joe had a stroke this past week. He's really been a leader. I think that the World Net Daily launched at or near the time that the Drudge Report launched, and I've read it for over 20 years, along with the Drudge Report. These were really the two first general conservative or independent conservative news outlets on the Internet. Since then, of course, there have been many that have come out. But at any rate, our thoughts and prayers go out to Joseph Farah and his family, and we hope that you recover soon out there, Joe. Let's remember what the state is up to and go back to a few more of our quotations from the totalitarians here. Let's read here from the Communist Party Education Workers Congress in 1918. We must create out of the younger generation a generation of communists. We must turn children who can be shaped like wax into real good communists. We must remove the children from the crude influence of their families. We must take them over and, to speak frankly, nationalize them. From the first days of their lives, they will be under the healthy influence of communist children's nurseries and schools. There they will grow up to be real communists. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? The communist tactic of deconstruction is to separate a people from their past, get them into a neutral position where they don't remember where they came from, then brainwash them into the communist future they have planned for them. Vladimir Ilyich Lenin stated, "Give me 4 years to teach the children, and the seed I have sown will never be uprooted." That, you want to know why we have trouble in our with young people voting? There you go, right there. Joseph Stalin also stated that education is a weapon whose effects depends on who holds it in his hands and at whom it is aimed. Beware, everybody. Leon Trotsky, another one of the trio there. If our generation happens to be too weak to establish socialism over the earth, we will hand the spotless banner down to our children. It is the struggle for the future of all mankind. And that's what we live with every day in our schools, where we turn over our children and their minds, and really the past. This is the great point. If you can, whoever controls the present controls the past. Whoever controls the past controls the future. So if you can erase the concept of the past or what we've learned from it, erase its reality, then you have a chance to shape the future. And that's why when we're dealing with liberals and progressives, communists, socialists, totalitarians of all kinds, it's always a brand new day. And they want to tell us how to think about ourselves and about our past. And these schools that here in California control 11/12 of the young school population, many of them coming here from another country, they do not teach them about our past. They actively reject the idea of America, and mostly they reject us, those of us who are the parents, who are the families, who are the citizens that pay the taxes. So we're going to talk about that and a few other issues here tonight. And then you'll see later on at the end of our 9 to 9:30 hour, Jonathan will have our ever popular Government Grifter of the Week award.
Yeah, our nominees come from John Land this week. I'm sorry, Juan Tierra.
Juan Tierra.
And he's not going to be able to call in to do the nominations tonight because he's out to dinner for his birthday.
Oh, his birthday. Happy birthday out there, Juan. Feliz cumpleaños, Juan Tierra. All right. Hey, we have a call coming in. Dave from Orange County. He's going to call to tell me that he's joined our system there. David, how are you?
Hey, Mike, I'm going to get around to it. I promise you. I say this every time I call in, huh?
I know. Well, all you do is go to School Choice 2020 .org. There's the information. You want me to walk you through it on the air?
Pardon me?
You want me to walk you through it on the air?
Oh, no, I'll get there. Sir.
Oh, we get you
I
a
will.
digital assistance line. All right,
got my
David.
word.
What's on your mind?
Okay, Christian Outlook last night. It's a part of your programming there at KRLA, and it's out of Pepperdine. And they revealed Colorado has banned abstinence-only teaching. And the key thing that goes with what you're pushing, and rightfully so, right to the core, it said that this is their method of going around getting control and winning by going around the parents. And it went right to your communist, not yours, but the Communist Manifesto that you quoted.
That's right. Yeah, these people, there's nothing new about the communist. They're part of a long history of people in or outside of religion or political parties or whatever who demanded complete control of the population and of what it thinks about itself and about society. That's completely inconsistent with what we, in what we sometimes call a democratic capitalistic system, it's contrary to what we believe, where we insist that our families and our culture and our religion be controlled by individuals and not by the state. We reject that absolutely. And yet we know, I mean, look at the kids. Everything's for the children. We joke about that. Oh, yes, it's the children here, the children there. Well, they want the children because along with the children goes a lot of money. And if you want to understand why illegal immigration is so heavy from the southern areas of this hemisphere, it is because they have a lot of kids, and those kids represent cash flow, don't they?
Exactly,
so,
and that goes to where, on that note, Homeland Security reported this week that they have 6,000 illegal immigrants in detention, and it's crisis point. They're putting them out in cities now because there's not enough space. And out of that 6,000, 4,700 of them are children. And this has got to stop.
Right. Yeah, that 4,700, multiply that by, if they're school-age kids, multiply that by $15,000 to $20,000 a year, and you have cash flow to their business. Never forget that these kids are coming up here because they're being pushed up by political forces. Some of them are Soros, some of them are Americans, some of them are just plain mischief, and the countries themselves pushing this excess population out into this place. I think this week we're going to see some action on the border. We've already seen it.
I've talked with people, Mike. I've spoken with and on Facebook and in person. I spoke with a former candidate in the Orange County, ran for Congress in 2008, helped on her campaign, and she made a comment about this transgenderist pushing on children in the schools, and she thinks that the Hispanics, we can get them because they'll really be against this. And
well, they are.
Mike, there's a re-energized Orange County.
That's right. Well, Dave, the way to re-energize them, there's only one thing that we should be doing. What is that, David?
It's the kids. It's
the children. Schoolchoice2020.org. Do nothing else. Drop everything else that you're doing. Emphasize that. Go to schoolchoice2020.org and sign up. It's the single most important thing that you do. And the sooner that you sign up, you, Dave, and everybody else out there, the easier and the sooner we're going to be able to get large political investors to understand what we know and believe, and that is that California is not lost, not by a long shot. We're just disorganized. We'll move it out. Dave, thanks for calling tonight. Did you want to make a comment,
on
Jonathan?
that point, you're talking about School Choice 2020.
Yeah.
We are having orientation workshops at headquarters every Saturday morning at 9 a.m. If you'd like to attend one of these workshops, just go to our website, schoolchoice2020.org, and click the events tab, and you can register for one of these trainings.
Excellent.
Yeah.
We'll
have coffee, bagels, and we're going to give you everything you need to know to get equipped to go out there and spread the word.
Yeah, come on up and see us, Dave. We'd love to see you. Next up, we have Brent from Los Angeles. How are you this evening, Brent?
I'm doing good, but I'm calling in with some upsetting new information on California.
What's that?
I went last week. First, hello, Mike, and hi, John.
Yeah.
Hey, Brent, you sound like you might have a cold or something.
No, I'm on a cell phone.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Reception from you, but I wanted to call in. Something happened last week that got me so riled. It's your lead-in when you started talking about communism. It's a grim lead-in, unfortunately, to what's going on in California. I attended last week's day-long symposium at the concerning the California housing crisis that Pepperdine University, the School of Public Policy, headed by Pete Peterson, had last week.
Yeah, I know Pete.
Yeah, and I fear that Pepperdine is making a radical left turn in its policies and in what it's teaching.
Yeah.
The symposium on California housing is that housing and real estate prices are way too high,
Right.
and they have lots of slogans and they have lots of sizzle and a lot of sweetness.
Right.
And we were being told that a lot of the real estate prices have to do with racism. And there's a new program.
That's what they were saying out there at this program put on by Pepperdine.
That's what I was getting from it. It wasn't coming out that directly.
Right.
There's a new program called YIMBY. Are you familiar with that movement?
NIMBY, not my backyard.
No, this is YIMBY. Yes, in my backyard.
Oh, okay, yeah. Well,
And
what, Brent, what we find, and I remember I was at a program out there where put on by the public policy school out there, Pepperdine, and Pete Peterson does head it up, and I believe that he was a candidate for Secretary of State or something like that a few years ago. He's a good guy. What he also does is he heads up a political consultancy, and in a lot of the things that we were talking about out there, he was basically talking about how cities and others we're going to get buy-in on controversial new taxation or this, that, or the next thing. I did not leave with the impression that Pete Peterson was particularly conservative. And these academic events are always a curious bunch, although we had a lot of conservatives at that. You remember that, Jonathan?
Sure,
You were there with me.
Yeah.
And we have these kumbaya exercises, where government sets it up to provide information, and the whole idea is don't just dump your latest liberal wacky proposal on the people. Talk to them, soap them up, get them in the hot tub.
Aromatherapy.
Yeah, aromatherapy. Give them some wine, sell them. But in the end, it's all nonsense. And the cities and the states have created this housing crisis. And if they just get the hell out of the way, things would be a lot better.
Yes, and they wouldn't see. This is what was so scary. They wouldn't allow questions. They wouldn't allow open verbal questions.
Oh no.
Position. And you could only write your questions, and of course, all the questions they received were pretty much in support or in promoting what they were saying.
I know.
And this YIMBY thing is really, it's part of the California Communist Confederate collectivist design to rob our citizens of their homes.
De facto. Well, let's put it this way. We at this point, because of excessive taxation, property taxes and everything else, in effect, we buy our houses at a price that's inflated by government policies, and then we pay property taxes. In effect, we rent our own property back from the government. And there are many people, I hate to say it, but $1 million house is not that unusual in a lot of parts of Los Angeles County, which means that you're going to turn around and pay the government $10,000 a year in taxes on top of your mortgage. And they just go out there with all this blithe nonsense. Well, yeah, you can afford it, or you're rich, or you're this, or you're that. All the usual commie claptrap, and all it is a fraud, a hustle, and a con. And all this money is going down the commie rat hole, and that rat hole is just getting deeper and deeper all the time.
Right, and so we just have to keep our eyes out for this movement.
That's right.
The way they present it, it all is like we're going to have housing for everybody, and the poor are going to have housing, and in effect, it's going to be the Green Deal relative to real estate. It's insane.
Yeah, and the idea is that these guys who run government somehow are better, smarter, more capable than the people who are actually in the business. And, of course, all they do is moving money around and taking a big chunk of it for themselves. And these idiots are out there pushing new legislation that would require, here in California, that every new home that's built have 4 solar panels on it. Right? Well, those solar panels themselves can add $50,000 or $100,000 to the cost of a home. You take that and the set-asides, you take $1 million home, $200,000 or $300,000 of it is gone in fees and set-asides and green areas and this, that, and everything else. It is an absolute joke. Now, what is their solution? Well, in a lot of these places, for example, Pasadena and downtown Los Angeles, they're going up. They're increasing concentration. And that's all part of a policy. The feds, particularly under Obama, have decided that we need low-cost housing in cities like San Marino, don't you know? So they were proposing that. They're not done with this. These people are never done with this. And so go ahead. I'm sorry. I'm ranting.
They're going to give us, affordable housing the same way they gave us affordable medicine.
That's right. Hey, Brent, I'm going to have to run here. Thanks for calling, my friend. I want to take Carlos for a couple of minutes on line 3 before we go to break. Carlos, how are you this evening? Always good to hear from you.
Well, it's good to talk to you because you allow people to actually voice their opinion without any censorship, like many other programs do. Believe me.
Right. Well,
but I was listening to you talking about communism.
Yes.
And it's such an insidious system that I don't see how anybody can be communist. If you go back to history, how many people did Lenin kill over in communist Russia?
Thank you.
And Stalin, they killed 20, 30 million people, starved them to death. That was part of their agenda. Look at Mao Zedong.
That's right.
Mao Zedong killed another 30, 40 million people. Pol Pot in Cambodia killed 3 million people. All these were communist regimes.
And the greatest Holocaust of them all.
Exactly.
Abortion.
Exactly. Those were true
abortion.
Holocaust.
Yeah, and Carlos, I want to answer your question, and I'll take you right up to the break till the music starts here. But I want to answer your question. How is it that anybody can go for that? Answer: they're not taught about it. They don't know these answers. They've forgotten the past, and what there is of the past, they serve up a narrow vision of America and what we do, and distort our record and convert us into the most evil people who ever walked this stage of history, rather than a modern miracle. When I say modern in the sense of modern history, nobody has our record of achievement. Nobody has a record of capitalism and improving people's condition here in the United States and throughout the country. Hey, that music that you hear, Carlos, means that we're up on a break. I want to thank you for your cogent comments as always. And, next up here, we're going to our break. After the break, we'll have Mark Ang on to talk about what's going on in the schools. And if you want to be part of the program, call back in later before 9 o'clock and after 9 o'clock at 866-870-5752. Mike Alexander, Jonathan Wilson, Radio Free Los Angeles, back with you after the break.
Come in, Southern California. This is Radio Free Los Angeles. Do you copy? Repeat, do you copy?
Now transmitting from behind the Iron Curtain in the People's Republic of California, we bring you the voice of free men, free markets, and limited constitutional government. Welcome to citizen-sponsored Radio Free Los Angeles with President of the California Taxpayers Union, Mike Alexander, and editor of the Taxpayer Gazette, Jonathan Wilson.
Hey, back with you here. Happy Sunday. This is Mike Alexander and Jonathan Wilson, Radio Free Los Angeles, the voice of choice in Los Angeles. We're going to have on here a guest visiting with us by telephone here, Mark Ang. But when we're done, if you'd like to join in, please call at 866-870-5752. And I know we got George on line one, but let him know it might be a while. He may want to just call back in. We'd love to hear from him. In the meanwhile, let's go to Mark on line 7 there. Hello, Mark Ang. How are you this evening?
I'm good, Mike. Thanks for having me.
Hey, great. Well, you know, I'll tell everybody how Mark and I met. Mark was kind of a walk-on at our school choice summit here about a month or so ago. And Mark came to talk about what's happening in schools. It was a very enlightening presentation, and I won't steal your thunder there. I'll just say that Mark is part of an Asian American Business Association or business-to-business coalition or something, but he's out there doing tremendous work in the community as well. Mark, maybe you could tell us about your organization and where you're from.
Sure. I'm actually here in Orange County. I'm calling in from Tustin, and I have an organization, AIB2B, Asian Industry B2B. And, our organization kind of started out being like a free markets advocate, going out there and helping businesses and, also being kind of a political liaison of sorts. And now it's kind of evolved into a lot of different things. I mean, we're doing events on human trafficking, anti-human trafficking. We have projects around health and wellness, public health, and education. So this is a cause that actually came to us, regarding this sex ed in the schools.
Right.
I had a faith committee meeting that was stormed by a bunch of angry parents, angry at the schools, and I held it in Santa Ana, so we actually got a lot of Hispanic parents that came in and said, we don't stand for this. And I said, you know what? I feel the passion. I feel the anger. It's time to get the word out. Obviously, all the stuff that's going on, with the overreach of government in the state.
Hey,
and
Mark, I definitely, before we talk about the specific topic of what they're teaching in schools and sex ed, which I found very compelling. Before we get to that, first of all, you're an Asian guy, and your network there is heavily Asian, but you're reaching out to a lot of people on a lot of issues. And if you're in Santa Ana School District, you're also talking to a lot of Latino parents. What is their attitude about what's going on, Mark?
Absolutely. I think the Latino community is very practical. Like Asians, I think that's where we have an affinity between Asian cultures and Latino cultures. We care a lot about our families. We care a lot about, working hard and having a good education. And, to the point where a lot of us are so busy with work that we place a higher amount of trust in the public education system to take care of our kids and actually prepare them for the workforce. And, a lot of us have immigrated to this country for that reason. And so, I think
that's a big mistake, isn't it?
Absolutely. And, I know your fight in school choice. And, I want to just say that Palm Lane Charter School in Anaheim is an example of Latino parents that were so fed up with the bad quality of education that the local public school was providing their kids, that they got together and used what was called a parent trigger to to fire the school and institute a charter school. Here's a great example of
trigger
successful
warning.
Stories.
Yeah. Get your therapy dogs, teachers. Yeah. And union members. Yeah, amazing. Mark, one of the things that gets parents upset and irritated, besides poor instruction in the basics, reading, arithmetic, basic composition, one of the things that really torques parents off is the cultural agenda at these schools, a political agenda, and one of the political cultural agendas that has aroused more anger than almost anything else has been the unrelenting sexual agenda in these schools. This is what you talked to us about. What have you observed, and what is it that they're doing? And maybe give us some examples.
Absolutely. And, the parents are just furious because, first of all, let's look at it from a macro perspective. These schools are supposed to be teaching math, English, all of these, basics, and especially history. Let's not forget history. I as a kid, when I was such a nerd that in my spare time I was reading books on American and world history. And you learn from mistakes in the past. Now these kids don't even get to learn the mistakes of the past. And we have a generation that's grown up that's so, I don't know, everything's about their feelings.
Yes.
And now this generation doesn't even know when they get involved politically that they're mouthpieces for the Democratic Party.
Correct.
And
they're repeating the errors. Yeah.
Yeah,
so
ridiculous.
Now, one of the things that they don't want to teach about is historically sexual norms. They don't even want to teach about sexual identities, and there is a highly intentional effort to peddle this new age sexual agenda to children at all levels, K through 12, and some of this actually starts in preschool, kindergarten, right through first and second grade. Maybe you could tell this audience about your experience.
Yeah, let's get to that. The age inappropriateness, right? Which is the first thing. These days, one can make a case about comprehensive sex education in middle school or high school. High school definitely. Middle school, you have to handle it appropriately. But right now, what's going on is there is a law now that you cannot speak of anyone with different sexual orientation or gender identification in a negative way.
Right.
So that law has now filtered into the changes in the framework. There's a framework which essentially is a blueprint for all the different school districts. Every school district goes in, as you know, and institutes their own curricula. However, they need to follow what basically this blueprint is where they take their cues from because there are certain laws they have to be compliant on.
Right.
So now what you have is K through third grade. You have I showed you a book called "Who Are You? A Guide to Gender Identity." That is one of the recommended readings that is being pushed for school districts to include. And then the other one, there's Marlon Bruno, which is a gay animal that is fighting the big bad evil people that are against gay marriage.
Yeah, two rabbits, aren't they? Or one's a rabbit and one's something or another.
Weasel or something. Yeah, there's so the whole point is there's a political agenda and I think all of us here we're in California. We all have gay friends. We're friendly to people of different gender identities. I think there is a line being crossed here, though, when that is stepping over the regular academics and the precious learning time of the children. Yeah. And that's what's going on because everything is being instituted. You have curricula that wants to say that Abraham Lincoln was gay. And
Yeah, right.
Talk about historical figures.
Sure.
And that's not even a fact. That's something that's merely speculation.
Yeah, we have
And that's
these.
something-
Yeah, we have these endless speculations that are best left up to adults.
By the way, I just got a text from Eric
Yeah.
Chan, who's a friend of Mark's.
Yes.
And Eric wanted to remind us all that today is International Transgender Recognition Day. He's not kidding.
All right, Jeff, you're okay with us. All right. Everybody out there who is transitioning or transgendering or whatever
just
the
wanna
hell you're doing,
recognize you.
we're recognizing you, man. All right.
Yeah.
So now we all feel better about each other now. This whole thing is a joke. Now, to me, the real acid test is this, and that is within any child, if the kid were stupid enough to ask the parents, mommy or daddy, when am I a boy or a girl? They stare at you like maybe you've fallen or something like that. But beyond that, how many parents would consciously choose this curriculum and this form of instruction to introduce their children to the all-important world of sex? What it is, what its purpose is, the rules governing it, the role that it plays in God's creation. It's almost impossible to introduce it without some religious context, some social context, some cultural context. Well, I would imagine that no more than 5% of the population would consciously choose to teach the children what is in these books. What is it? What Am I is one of those books or whatever?
Yeah, who are you?
Yeah, who are you? Yeah, I mean, please.
And let's talk a little bit about that, Mike. Let's kind of go into some detail in that, because that book, to me, on so many levels, is a travesty. I mean, you have, first of all, the topic matter is something that, I'd rather the kids read Aesop's Fables or something where there's a moral in the story and, it enriches and inspires kids.
Correct.
This book is really focused on teaching all of the nomenclature around the different genders. So that's the first point. The second point is it really goes into parental defiance.
Yes.
And that is something I'm not happy with.
Right.
To me, it's basically, once again, the state overreaching and encouraging a generation of kids to rebel against their parents.
Correct.
Basically say that it really reeks of Mao's Cultural Revolution.
Yes.
And my great-grandparents and grandparents escaped on a boat to get away from communism. I take this stuff very seriously.
Yeah, your heritage is Vietnamese, is it not?
I'm not. I'm Chinese.
Chinese, okay. Right.
Yeah,
So,
I'm Chinese Filipino. My great grandmother and her son, my grandfather, escaped on a boat to go to the Philippines to escape an anti-capitalist society and
there
a
you go.
society that was burning books.
Right.
That was, teaching kids that pleasure is all that's needed while being pawns of Mao Zedong.
Right.
And it's disgusting that most people don't know the history, and
Sure.
I take this very seriously because that was a lot of sacrifice that and my family knew how bad communism is, and you see the book burning, the political suppression of any ideas. I mean, this is not a laughing matter.
They are the same people with the same objectives. And, one of the people that we've worked with here for a long time, Marcy, and those of you out there know who I'm talking about, she's mentioned several times that, the teaching of this class in this fashion to these youngsters, first of all, involves sexualizing children. And the very language that is used and the isolation of the children by themselves in a discussion like this would, under any other circumstances, be prosecuted as a sex crime. if you were to take a youngster and start describing sex acts to that youngster and normalizing them and telling them that these feelings are just fine, you get yourself busted for that sort of thing. And
it'll be very interesting to watch how they walk that tricky line, right? Because you also have the Me Too movement going on right now, and that is against all of this stuff. And so it's like a big ball of contradictions, but I don't expect any less from the liberals.
Yeah, we're all the same people. Now, you talked about the parents down there in Orange County putting a trigger mechanism into place. I guess that's what applies to charter schools down there. And if the scores fell below a certain level, then a charter school could be formed. What was the chief driving force there? Was it low academic performance on the part of the public school, the cultural issues, safety, or was it a combination of all of the above?
All of the above.
Okay.
All of the above. The kids were out of control. There was a lot of behavioral issues. There was a lot of, just stuff like gang activity and going on around the park that's adjacent to the school. I mean, all of these things were because of a lack of leadership. You know, you have a lot of people that are just like, okay, this is what the union tells us. We're just gonna follow protocol and procedure without thinking big picture.
Right. And when parents go to teachers and complain about any of this, what are they told?
A lot of times you're just going to be passed through bureaucratic red tape. Your concerns are never going to really be heard. So, it takes a lot of passion and a lot of organization for that to have happened with Palm Lane Charter School. So I commend the families there, especially the Latino families that really saw how bad it was and then reacted and made it happen. Do they have that luxury if they were in LA County? No, sadly. But at least it was exercised in the city of Anaheim.
Yeah, and those efforts are always going to be a problem because there's still curriculum control even in the charter schools. And when you go to any of these public schools or even charter schools, and by the way, if I'm wrong about charter schools in this respect, please call me. I'm generally a supporter of them. But I think that when it comes to certain curriculum content, their hands are still tied. And they will tell parents or anybody else complaining to them about it that their hands are tied, and of course is set by the state. And the teachers' unions have been very clever and organized and systematic in taking all of these things to Sacramento and making sure that there is no discretion, that there's mandatory hiring, mandatory instruction in these places. And this is just the Soviet Politburo that we're dealing with, and there is no way to reform it. So I don't have any time for for people with mental problems calling here, talking about how to reform it. You can't. The only way to reform the school, I can't even reform a taco stand, can I? The only way, if I get a bad taco, bad hamburger, bad product of any kind, what is my solution? Answer: I do the same thing that a teacher does in the same circumstances. I go somewhere else until they fix it. And that's all we're talking about, is introducing competition into the system. Now, Mark, you've been very active down there in Orange County. I'm looking forward to you holding a school choice summit of your own down there. I'm looking forward to be working with you to hold such an event. And for people that want to get a hold of us, of course, is schoolchoice2020.org. But if you want to know about Mark and his organization, Mark, where should they go?
Definitely check out AIB2B.org, and that's the number 2, AIB2B.org. And that stands for industry.
Yeah, let's take a slow. It's AITB.
No, B2B, which stands for business to business.
Okay.
AIB2B.org.
Okay, and so it's there's 5 letters, AIB, and then a T, And a B.
Nope, B, and then the number 2.
The number
And
2.
then B.org.
.org. Okay.
B.org.
Great. And, we'll put a link up to it on our own website as School Choice 2020 so that folks down in Orange County that want to get organized can reach Mark. And anybody out there, and this reminds me again, we're having training sessions up there at our office here on the weekends. Would you announce that again?
Every Saturday at School Choice headquarters in Pasadena, we're going to have a orientation workshop, 9 a.m. on Saturday mornings. If you would like to attend, just go to our website and click the events tab, schoolchoice2020.org.
Great. Then we want to get some similar sessions and training dates going on down in Orange County. Mark, I want to thank you tonight for being part of a program and for everything that you're doing out there. You're setting an example of citizen responsibility and activism and showing the other side of the political conservatism of a community is often dismissed or regarded, I wouldn't say dismissed, but regarded as liberal or pro-government. That in Latinos, not the case. And you're a tremendous example for all of us, Mark. Thanks for being on tonight, and I look forward to being in touch, my friend.
Thank you so much, Mike. And just real quick, I just want to say, a lot of conservatives are disheartened, especially with the last elections, especially with, voter fraud and whatever's going on out there. It was not a good election last time, but please remember, we have dropped the ball in the community. We have stopped caring about doing stuff like these parents did in Anaheim to make our city and local issues and local officials accountable. It starts at the local level. It starts
right.
at the level.
That's right.
Thank you for what you did.
Hey, you're very welcome, Mark. Talk soon, my friend. All right, we just had Mark Ang of Asian something, business to business.
Yeah, I think it's Asian B2B.
Asian B2B.
Business to business.
Yeah,
Yeah,
tremendous.
he's out there.
He's out there.
He's a sharp guy. He is. He's everywhere.
And very engaged. He's a good public speaker as well. So everybody be in touch with Mark. All right, we got a comment up here. Next, we have George from Los Angeles. How are you this evening, George?
Pretty good, Mike.
All right, great.
You're doing well?
We are.
Yes. I just wanted to comment, an earlier caller had talked about, the communist history, but you remember Karl Marx says, there's no need to study history, what happened in the past, because history starts now. So,
right.
Forget everything.
Yes.
But when the numbers really come in, it appears that we have roughly 100 million people killed, murdered by Soviet communism, and there is about 300 million done up by the Red Chinese, and Mao Zedong, most of his time was spent inventing tortures to kill people.
Yeah.
And they all, participated in these starvation campaigns. And so this is a big problem now because you see with this focus on feelings and the intellectual thing of putting all of these gender labeling and stuff like that for young people's intellect.
Yes.
You see, they don't think socialism is bad, but yet, there's at least 100 million people.
That's right. George, do you hear that music? That means we're up on a hard break here for the top of the hour. If you'd like to hold on past the 9 o'clock hour, I'd love to respond. Otherwise, if you can't hold on, I will still respond to your comments.
By the way, I just got a text from Eric Chan.
Yeah?
Mark Ang's organization is called Asian Industry Business to Business.
That's what I thought. That's the I in there. Yeah. Hey, Mike Alexander, Jonathan Wilson, end of our first hour. Thanks for being part of it. We're going to be on again right after the top of the hour up to 9:30. Call in, be part of the program.
Come in in Southern California. This is Radio Free Los Angeles. Do you copy? Repeat, do you copy?
Now transmitting from behind the Iron Curtain in the People's Republic of California, we bring you the voice of free men, free markets, and limited constitutional government. Welcome to citizen-sponsored Radio Free Los Angeles with President of the California Taxpayers Union, Mike Alexander, and editor of the Taxpayer Gazette, Jonathan Wilson.
Hey, back with you, everybody out there. Mike Alexander, Jonathan Wilson, Radio Free Los Angeles, right here on AM 870, The Answer, coming to you from Glendale, California. Welcome, everybody. If you'd like to be part of the show tonight, feel free to call in at 866-870-5752. And by the way, don't forget that this is citizen-sponsored radio. You're the ones who help keep us on the air. If you want to be part of it, and I hope you do because you need to be, where should they go, Jonathan?
You know what? Go to schoolchoice2020.org and click the contribute button. You can sign up for a monthly contribution of as little as $5 a month.
Yep. It's what's necessary, and I'm going to go into more of our fundraising strategy here in a minute, what you and we have to do together. And remember, please don't tell me that you support school choice if you don't support school choice. Yeah, go on that website, sign up for any amount of money per month, or go on the gold plan as if you were a teacher. That's $83.33 per month. That's what we call the gold plan. That's because the gold rules in politics, and I'm going to talk to you more about that here in a little bit. Now, in the meanwhile, I want to go back to George in Los Angeles and pick up the thread there. George, we were talking about what had happened in communism in the last century, which was a truly extraordinarily bloody century, and most of the mayhem, except for the Holocaust that we call abortion, most of the mayhem was brought about because of the existence of large, powerful central governments, totalitarian governments. And I'm always amazed at how many otherwise sensible people who are practical, generous, even religious people want to give government all this power, and then they're always stunned when large, all-powerful government with control over everything, all men, all property, all everything, when they turn to the time-honored pursuits of war and pillage. They do it every time.
That's right.
If they have ultimate power, they will exercise it. They will use it. And all these same sob sisters who weep at the drop of a hat over some perceived outrage by a corporation, let me tell you, no corporation ever killed, except with the power of government, ever killed 10 million people, 100 million people, or more. They never did that.
No.
Only government can do this.
No. And the radio station you're on right now,
yes.
It also, there's a little saying that comes on, between advertisements and, programming sometimes. It says, no man's life, liberty, or property is safe as long as the legislature is in session.
That's right. It comes from an old English saying, no man in England is safe when Parliament is in session.
Yes.
And and that's true.
Yes.
And now your money's not safe. You're not safe. Your children aren't safe.
No.
Someone's going to grab them and start teaching them and grab all the money.
Yes.
And
that's
the problem in our
that Mark Ang brought up that the parents finally had too much in Orange County, and they were able to break out of that system and get their charter schools going.
Yep.
Because it is so hard, even just to win the way through the curriculum determination for a school district,
Yes.
because there's all this money for the ADA and the teachers union, and then there's all the book salesmen that are all politically connected in there.
It's all a fraud, a hustle, and a con.
Yes,
it's about their business, and there's no way that we can reform the system, even with charter schools. The only real choice is there. Now, just to give you an example, you and I know choice, competition, it leads to better education and everything. So what does our superintendent of schools, so here we have this mildly retarded, maybe profoundly retarded goofball. His name is Tony Thurmond, and he's the so-called superintendent of education. So he appeared in San Francisco at the Commonwealth Club, and he was asked about competition, school choice, or charter schools. And there were a lot of people that had high hopes for this guy who didn't get it. Didn't understand, thought he might be independent of the unions. But here's his reply. Everybody can judge for himself. I think there's a role for all schools, Thurmond said, including charters, publicly funded but privately managed schools that supporters say offer valuable educational alternatives to children, but which critics say undermine traditional public education. Okay.
This is why we need the initiative.
Here, I'm with you. Don't forget to go to schoolchoice2020.org and sign up. Give me some love over there, George. I could use it.
I certainly will.
Good.
But
let me finish this idiot's quotation, because you're going to love it. But get your barf bag up. But I do not believe, Tony Thurmond said, I do not believe that the state should ever open new schools without providing resources for those schools. Huh? I do believe that education isn't. I do not believe. Okay, here's the full quote. I do not believe that education is an environment for competition.
Oh my!
There you go.
God.
Here's my concern. He said, you cannot open charter schools and new schools to serve every single student in our state, he continued. If you take the competition approach, that means some students, a lot of students, will be left behind, like they are now, right? And again, I don't believe that that's what our mission is. I believe that the promise that we make to each other in society, now he's a philosopher, the promise that we make to each other in society is to provide opportunity to get an education, to live a better life, to be able to acquire what you want through your hard work and for yourself and your family. Hey, Tony, great quote, but it's not going to happen in your business that you're operating there. These guys are such scam artists. Every damn one of them's a liar.
That is just so much truth, and this is why I was hoping if we had some sort of initiative across the state where at least the voting persons as well as the parents could say something about curriculum. We've got 3 R's.
Yeah, we just need to go to school choice, and the curriculum will take care of itself.
Yeah.
Just like if you want to have... if you want a certain kind of hamburger or Chinese food or something from where's this place? Didn't you have a place across the street from your old office that had Afghani food? Right?
Yeah, I don't think it's there anymore.
Yeah. Well, anyway, the market will supply it if there's a demand for it. George, I want to thank you for calling in here tonight. It's always a pleasure to hear from you, and I appreciate your pledge of support at schoolchoice2020.org. Next up, we have Linda. How are you this evening, Linda?
Well, considering someone like me who lives in Burbank, I hope that there is somebody in Burbank who is politically savvy that will draw up a petition to circulate to get rid of the Burbank sales tax that's going to start tomorrow.
Oh yeah, that's what they're doing. Well, the
voters voted for it in November, so
I didn't.
Well, I know that, but that November was the opportunity, and unfortunately, we missed it.
Yeah, these people are out here. We haven't and they're going crazy at every level, and they're not going to stop. Now, I've given this a lot of thought. Many, many people in the state have given this a lot of thought as to what we should do. I also head up the California Taxpayers Union, as you know, and we in our organization have launched 3 or 4 initiatives against taxes.
Well, yeah, Pasadena did the same thing as they did in Burbank in November as well. And for some reason, voters just gladly accepted it. So I feel your pain, Linda.
Very stupid voters.
Yeah.
Oh, they are.
Well, there's also a lot of propaganda and manipulation going on.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah.
Well, I also want to say that if anybody has seen a commercial how seniors are going to lose their Medicare 6. They're saying people with AIDS, epilepsy, mental illness, whatever else they mentioned.
Yes.
They'll all be cut off. Medicare 6. They said to call this, Congressman's office. So I called to find out what it was all about. The aide didn't know jack anything, so I called my congressman, Brad Sherman's office.
Yeah.
The aide there was able to look it up and told me that all Medicare 6s that they want to do away with is Obamacare.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
anyone
right.
Who signed up for Obamacare.
And Linda, the whole damn thing is broke anyway. And everybody in America needs to wake up to the fact that the amount of sovereign debt that we have, that is the amount of debt that is owed by the government, and the amount of public liabilities that we have in so-called unfunded liabilities. When I say so-called, that's what they're referred to as. They are, in fact, unfunded liabilities of Social Security and Medicare are profound. They're in the hundreds of billions of trillions now of dollars. Yeah, we're not going to be able to pay those amounts. And it's the same way with the pensions that we have here in our state of California. These pensions can't be paid. Now, Liz, I'm glad that you mentioned that, because now I'm going to go back to one of the stories that I mentioned at the beginning of the show, and that is Kamala Harris's, or Kamala, whatever the hell her name is.
She wants health care for everybody.
Huh?
She wants health care for everybody.
Well, that's, but among other things, she has a...
That's what she wants.
Hey, stay with me, Linda. The other thing that she's trying to do here, a proposal that she introduced here just the other day while speaking at a campaign rally at Morehouse College on March 24th, she proposed that a $315 billion expenditure by the federal government, that the federal government would address the crisis in teacher pay across the country. And she's proposed, she wants to increase the average teacher salary in the United States by $13,500. That would represent a 23% increase in base pay. Now, of course, that it would be a lot less than that here in California, because their salaries are quite high on the average, and costs the government some $315 billion over 10 years. Now, it says its goal to entirely close what Harris calls the teacher pay gap, the difference between what teachers are paid and what those with comparable college degrees and experience are paid. Now, this is from the from National Review. But as a matter of fact, that's not the purpose of it. Here's what the purpose of, first of all, is to get her elected president, right? So she's making, and who's the most powerful, the most numerous members of the unions? Answer: the teachers. California Teachers Association, 350,000 members. This was a naked appeal to the school teachers and all in the National Education Association, so-called the SEIU, which represents some teachers, and these other organizations that represent teachers throughout the country. This is their pledge to them. And here in California, obviously what she's trying to do is to set a precedent for the federal government covering gaps, alleged gaps in teacher pay throughout the country, and this is one way, number one, to federalize education further with large fundings. Number two, to make compensation of California's teachers a federal problem. And what's the number one teacher compensation issue that we have in California, Linda? The unfunded pensions, right?
Yes.
So this is how they're going to try to move in California to get the federal government to start shoring up public pension difficulties that they have in large urban states like California and like Illinois. These guys are not going to cut their salaries. They're not going to cut employment. They're not going to cut benefits. They're going to cut our throats. That's what they're going to do. And Kamala Kami Harris here was making a very cynical appeal for this, and this is what she wants to have happen. This is how they propose to address the problem, because as you and I know, here in California, public employee pensions cumulatively between CalPERS, which is a California pension system, and then the California State Teachers Retirement System, and the University of California Retirement System, those three pension systems alone are over $1 trillion underwater, no matter what they're telling you. Even with their own numbers, they'll admit to maybe $500 million, right? Or $500 billion, rather.
Governor
right?
Newsom, he wants the water tax.
Oh, yeah. They want to tax it all.
I won't survive on a water tax.
No.
I'll get dehydrated.
That's right. I know. Yeah, it's tax. And how is it that people get used to all this taxes? I don't think that you can overlook the crucial role that that public so-called education plays in brainwashing, indoctrinating students and their families. Because remember, a lot of these kids that are coming into our large urban schools, they're Latino. They may have been born here, but their parents weren't. Many of their parents are illegal. So those parents are the target of a great deal of the indoctrination that is furnished to the students. So there's more than just the students that are hearing this nonsense. They intend to propagandize and indoctrinate and brainwash the parents as well. And one of the things that they try to do is to persuade them not to take to participate in the system and just to grift off of it or accept whatever government says or does as somehow the right issue. And I got 6 minutes to go, Linda, and I've got to do my government grifter. Do you have any nominations for government grifter of the week?
Governor Newsom.
All right,
that's a good one.
We'll put him in the rotation.
All right.
God bless, Linda. Thank you so much out there. All right.
So, Music Maestro.
All right.
And now it's this week's Government Grifter Awards, live from Glendale, California. And we've got nominations this week from Juan Tierra. He couldn't join us tonight to do the nominations. He's out to dinner celebrating his birthday with his daughter and her husband. So,
all right.
If you're listening, Juan, happy birthday. So he's got some very interesting nominations. I think you're going to like these.
All right.
And these are three of the top 5 highest paid employees by the state of California.
Oh, man.
These are good.
Yeah.
The first nominee with a total pay and benefits, and I believe this is in 2017, of $895,000.
Whoa.
The Chief Investment Officer, Public Employee Retirement System.
Ah, yeah, CalPERS, yeah.
Okay, so the second nominee has the exact same title. The Chief Investment Officer, Public Employees Retirement System. So it's another investment officer for $898,000 a year.
Whoa, yeah. I got some comments on those guys, yeah.
And our third nominee is, again, the Chief Investment Officer, Public Employees Retirement System. And this fella's really pulling it in. $1,321,000,
Wow.
I believe, in 2017.
What was he? Just one of them, or the chief, or
No, they're all chief investment officers.
Yeah.
And they're the three of the top 5 highest paid in California. So,
right.
yeah.
I always have kind of mixed feelings about those guys because those guys, like some doctors and whatnot, really would command very high salaries out there where they are, except for when you stop to consider their investment returns are not that great, and yet they're picking up huge money. Many of them would make more outside in private industry, but a lot of these guys wouldn't be hired at all, given their results. And, of course, they never join in with us and tell the truth about their system, which is the investment assumptions are toast. They participate in it. But at any rate...
Do they get pensions, too? I wonder.
I'm sure they do.
Yeah.
We'll have to check that out.
Yeah.
There's some homework for you, Juan Thierry. Get busy, man.
Well, and our fourth nominee, provided by Linda from Burbank, is Governor Newsom.
Nuisance, as she calls him.
All right,
Gavin Newsom.
I think we have a winner.
All right, drum roll, please.
And the winner of this week's Government Grifter Awards goes to... Wow, this is a surprise. Governor Newsom.
Yeah, this idiot presides over this mess. And ladies and gentlemen, we continue to bring this to you. Sometimes this is the one feature that I hear most about when I go different places, and it's disgusting in some ways, humorous in others, but we have to keep you informed. Most of us don't know what's done in our names. By the way, before the show ends here, what have I got, another minute or two here? I got 2 minutes. I want to take the last 2 minutes to congratulate St. Monica Academy of Montrose, California. Was founded almost 20 years ago in Pasadena. My wife Patricia and I were involved as founding board members and just general participants in that wonderful school. It's now almost 20 years old and is thriving in its new location in Montrose. I want to make a couple of comments. I'm going to have if Martin Bowles, who's I think he's chairman, but he's been there for a long time, if he'll come in, I'd like him to talk to you about what can be done with private education, what it's actually costing to get outstanding results, and how critical education is, and what they're doing to solve the problem over there. But the reason I was at their annual fundraiser last night called Havana Nights, and after the initial auction and whatnot, I think that the tables that they sold might have brought in maybe $140,000. Then they started the cash drive, and the cash drive was very successful. And start off with a number of $10,000 donors, a number of $5,000 donors, got all the way up to $170,000, $180,000, and they were just thrilled, and they should have been, should be very proud. But then I stopped to think in the middle of the whole thing how unnecessary it was, and how that only represents 10 children in the public school system. All that effort. Ladies and gentlemen, you put that kind of effort in there, and from now on, you won't have to be struggling just for survival. Everybody out there, I sure appreciate you listening in. Mike Alexander, Jonathan Wilson, another great show here tonight. Thanks, everyone, for participating. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Brooke, our call screener. And what is all those people? Happy Transgendering Day.
Yeah.
Okay? To everybody out there. See you next week.